We're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt Lineouts. I'm Aaron Castro, your host. I'm joined by Ryan Fitzgerald, the general manager for the New Orleans Gold Rugby Club. And we're going to talk mostly recruitment about for the 2019 season. But first, I have a question, as we were talking pre-air, what are the changes for the as far as not logistics, but the ground that you guys had this last season that you've installed since the end of last year?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it. Last year, we got our stadium up, kind of, got tight there towards the end. We got it up and everything before the season started. We played, a lot of our home games towards the back end of, being in April, May, and June down here. It gets pretty hot. So, we actually did a lot of work over the summer and the fall and everything like that, and it's 100% ready to go now as far as the grass. There isn't down on that side, it's not burnt kind of like it was last year towards the end there and kind of got chewed up and beat up a little bit. Completely reseeded, resodded on the patches that needed it. It's been taken care of all fall, and brand new goalposts the whole night. They added some bleachers on the other side as well. Our VIP section is going to have a little bit bigger addition than both end zones. And as well, so there's little upgrades all over as far as even the entryway has, some of the brick kind of sidewalk walking up to it. So going to be a much better experience overall.
Awesome. So let's get into recruitment. But why do you think we call it recruitment in rugby rather than free agency?
No, it's a good question. I mean, I guess you could look at it either way. I mean, it's, I guess 6 or a half dozen, however you want to call it. But in a lot of ways, it is, a recruiting. It's not, versus like the NFL or the NBA when a guy gets drafted, he really doesn't have, a choice to go either way versus like a kid coming out of high school picking to go to a college or something. Same thing here, especially when you factor in the international side of it, when a lot of those guys have options. So a guy could go to a different league, could stay right there at home where he's at, could go to any team in MLR. So in that aspect, it is really a recruitment, versus a draft per se, Same thing right now with the college All-Americans, even in-house here, even guys locally in the Midwest or, anywhere that's playing, USA rugby. It's still a recruitment to kind of pack up and leave where you're at. And everybody's in a different situation. So some guys might be, have a good job back home and it's hard for them to pack up and leave that, versus the high school or college kid that's coming right out of high school, right out of college that can kind of, pack up and go and load up a suitcase and roll out the next day. So in that aspect, it is a little bit of a recruitment, but it's very unique that every single player is kind of in a different situation. So it really, like I said, it's kind of like reverse negotiating in a lot of ways, but sometimes, based on what that player's needs are, if he's married, he's with a kid, if he, like I said, has a good job back home, if he doesn't have anything, all those factors come into play versus, let's say, if you're scouting or drafting out of the NFL, where it's pretty cut and dry. Every kid wants to go right to the NFL, and they know what they're getting into. So it is kind of a recruitment in that aspect.
So we've talked a lot through your recruitment process and to go into what you guys wanted to do. You have had some changes. Guys have moved on, notably, so everyone is going to say, hey, what happened to these? I talked to Matt Houston a couple weeks ago, and he's like, when we had talked, you were like, just couldn't make it work.
Sure.
Love the guy, great player. And you know what he said? He was like, yeah, we just couldn't make it work. And I love the place. And, I had an opportunity here, so I took it. And, that says a lot about the culture you guys are building down in New Orleans, which is awesome. You also mentioned that Sebastian Coleman moved on, and there were some other players, just life circumstances, of course. But how did that affect where you needed to target for players?
Right. Well, just for instance, for those two players, both awesome guys. I wish nothing but the best for them. Both of them were, it's not like it was just a release or a cut or I don't want to be here. Both of them were offered. We offered and wanted them to come back, both contracts. It just, we also had, when it's a tight salary cap and stuff, we also, if you look at our depth and our roster last year, there was some needs that we needed to acquire. At the in the engine room, at the lock position, we needed to get a little bit bigger there and a little bit more competitive in the lineouts. and as well in the back line. So there was just some spots that we needed to really. It wasn't more so what Matt Houston and what Sebastian Cullum didn't do. It was more so just this is what we can kind of offer you, because we have other needs that we have to really hit at and get some more depth, and that's really what it is. So a lot of people sometimes, that's fine, that's great. They see something like that and wonder what happened, if there was a blow up or something. Not at all. I think they're both players are tremendous. Talked to both of them, over the course of the summer, and just talked to Sebastian the other day actually. So I wish nothing but the best. NOLA Gold does as well. So it just kind of comes into factor more so about your individual roster and where your needs are, and this is what it can afford. And because we got to go out and get this, and especially in that lock position, it's difficult at times to find 6'6" guys that can run and play, and and then also in the back line, if you look at the league last year, there's a lot of plays, and a lot of talent out there that we needed to bring some more depth to that back line as well. And it also every club has their cross to the bear, so every club, a team like Rugby United, for example, with two very good Division I clubs in that area, might have a little bit bigger draw, a little bit more local depth than other teams or something. So everybody's got, whether weather or whatever it is. For us, roster-wise, that's what we kind of really needed to hit on. So, yeah, it didn't – unfortunately, Matt's going to do real well up in New York. Sebastian's going to do very well. But, it just kind of changed it. We just really wanted to address that lock position and also add some more depth in the back line as well. So that's kind of where a lot of our needs were.
Well, I guess first let's talk lock. You're bringing in, two traditional locks, and Ignacio Dottie and Kane Thompson, and then Kyle Bailey, who's the guy that plays for. Basically, he's a 4-6 hybrid.
Right. Yeah, you got exactly between Kane, obviously with Kane's experience speaks for itself, and he's still playing 72 minutes in the Mitre 10 Cup, and he's just that exact kind of lock that you're looking for, not only between how tough he is and his experience, but just that overall brings everything to the field, around the ruck, does the dirty work, the lineouts, the scrums, everything, just exactly. Plus, we also have two up-and-coming locks here locally that I think will really, really grow off of him. Had very good conversations with Kane as well, that he's really into, after he's done playing, getting into his coaching career as well. So I think that was a big draw as well to come to the States for this time. So we're excited as hell to have him, and then Kyle, like you said, speaks for himself. He's just a freak between his height and weight, and, running a 445 Bronco is, it's hard to find those people, so, and like you said, between being able to play being able to play 4 and 5, and also in the back row, especially with ARC coming up, a couple of guys coming and going and stuff like that, it's good to have that depth. And then obviously with Dottie, same thing. All the guys, a couple guys on our team met him down in, in Uruguay this fall or a couple weeks back, and great guy to have in the club. Again, adds that experience, depth, gets around the pitch. And that's, like I said, those are hard guys to find. And then obviously, another one that we signed as well. So between that and, like I said, a couple of our local guys coming up that are young that can really grow with that, it's great to have that competitive, edge in front of them to feed off of. So that was a big part that we wanted to address this year, and I think that we feel very confident that we did.
Let's talk. Front row. You've brought in a Life and a Cal product.
Yeah, absolutely. Both Matt Harmon and Kevin Sullivan. We met them. I mean, went down to Life last year, actually in season, and just kind of watched it. Got up there with called Colton. And, went down there and, watched a practice, a couple of their practices. And, Matt really stood out to us. Kept in touch with them all spring and all summer, and went to the Collegiate All-American camp and met up with again there. I thought he did very well at the College All-American camp all summer and against Glendale. Kevin Sullivan, we interviewed as well there. He was outstanding, I thought, that week. And he's got a lot of potential, a lot of area to grow. And I think with bringing back Hubert Bidens as well, who has that exact same kind of experience, and Hubert really took on a role for us last year, not only as a starter, but really, really solidified a lot of the scrums for us as far as coaching as well. I think a guy like Kevin Sullivan and Matt Harmon will, feed off him very well. So we're really excited. Again, another tough position that's hard to find. There's not just, props around, props and hookers around here that can run and play, so that's a position that you got to address. And, we're trying to get those guys here at a young age and get them groomed up, and hopefully they stay here for many years.
And moving on, a little bit of back row action. You guys, I guess before we move on to the back row, you talked a lot about your philosophy in recruiting players to come to New Orleans, and you talked a lot about guys wanting to come to NOLA, and sticking in roots and going after a young and hungry side. And you're bringing in, I think it's 6 All-Americans, or is it 7? Basically, pretty much.
There's 6 right now. Yep.
So yeah, I mean that's.
Yeah, that, like we said, when we talked last year at this time, our philosophy, our role, kind of, our whole plan of attack for year 1 and year 2 in these first couple of years, especially last year from ground, for season 1 for everybody, is to get tough, really good teammates, really good players, good guys in here, core group of guys that want to be here, want to be a part of the grind, want to be a part of it, that they know this is from the ground up and they accept the challenge and they want in. They came here, our old boys in our NOLA community, like I told them, and I knew they would embrace them. From this time the season was over, guys were texting me that they can't wait to get back. We got 22 guys coming back, including the local guys. So when you have those guys coming back, word spreads pretty good, and that leads to the Scott Gales, the Con Foleys. And when you get some of those guys coming back, Tristan Blewitts and Canes, and Kyle Bailey and Cam Dolan, Dottie, that's a lot of good word of mouth. I can sit up here and say all I want to and everything, but when those guys hear it from other guys that they played with and they trust, that's the best, kind of compliment you can get as a club. So by getting a lot of those 22 guys coming back, good buzz in our city with our men's club on the rise and coming, and then adding some, adding college All-Americans that want to come here, be a New Orleanian. I'm not originally from here. I came down here 9 years ago, thought I was going to be here for 6 months for rugby season. I'm still here going on 10 years. So that's the kind of, guys that we're looking for. That want to come here and be a part of it, stay here over the summer, help coach our youth program, our 7s, our high schools. And so far, so good. We're on the right track. So with those guys coming back, plus with our additions, we're pretty confident that the culture's growing well.
So you mentioned some names, of course, which we'll get to. Back row guys moving on. But you bring in Malcolm May, who, if anyone watched Penn State the past couple of years, he was Penn State's captain. We're talking about when it comes to a prototypical 6, this guy's a prototypical 6. He's big, he's fast, and he gets to work around the breakdown, and he hustles.
Yeah. A kid from Chicago goes to Penn State. You're a team captain there for years. Just a stand-up kid. We even interviewed him at the Collegiate All-American camp. The kid comes down in, khakis in his Penn State polo with a pen and notebook and pencil right off the bat. You're making a note in your head that this kid knows how to be a professional. This is going to be an easy transition. Being that 6, and he could, if he had to be in a hybrid in a pinch, he can play in the lock. A coachable kid that is, like I said, team captain, leader, that, is going to come down and embrace it and really wants to be a part of it. He's excited. We talk, once a week or so at least, so he'll be down here in the next couple of weeks. In our back row, we still feel very confident. You got Brendan Falcon here locally. You got John Sullivan coming back, Vince Jobu, Moni Tungawea. So Kevin O'Connor is actually coming as well. We haven't announced him yet, but he played with Holden at St. Mary's a couple years back, and he went to Trinity for a year. He'll be here in December. So we're still, and then obviously there's another one that we just announced the other day, some guy named Cam Dolan. So we're pretty excited still about our back row, and Kyle Bailey being a 6. So I think we still did. Still are very competitive there, and we're still got very good players there, and at the same time also address the lock position. So
I would say
very excited.
More than competitive there. Bringing in All Americans and the starting number 8 on the Eagles,
right?
Back from England.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're very excited for the All Americans. I think that was going out there this summer was awesome. Being out there for a week and watching those guys compete, and we had to fill out a survey, almost like how you do at the NFL draft. You go to the NFL Combine, they have a kind of, what's your best game? Height, weight, parents' name, the whole 9. Have been in trouble with the law. There's 84 kids there, and I think, or 86 kids, and I think 80 said they are looking and seeking an MLR contract out of college. So there's tons of juniors there that are going to be graduating next year. So next year will be very good for that transition from a lot of them coming to MLR. So, if not, best part about it, especially when you're building something like this and the recruiting and the development, is watching those guys grow and the development of it. So, anybody can look at Bowden Barrett and realize, he's good. that's obvious. But, taking a guy like, Malcolm May and a Nick Feeks and watching them kind of get better every day right in front of you, that's especially when you got a guy like Kane Thompson and with two young locks behind him, that's what's really, that's what it's all about, So we're in the right direction and we're excited about it.
So we've sort of built up front, and you mentioned the names. Let's go to the back line. Tristan Blewett, Scott Gale, Con Foley. How did and Nick Feeks? You told me you got Nick Feeks. I think it was back in July because he was playing with you. He was playing with NOLA sevens, and I was like. We talked about it then, and for some reason people wouldn't believe me, and I was like, he's playing. There's no reason for this guy to come down and play with NOLA sevens if he wasn't interested in playing for the gold. And he's a guy I think for depth a lot with what you guys were doing last season. It got a little thin in the halfbacks and also at fullback too. But he's a guy that can play right away.
Right away, yeah, and a versatile player as well. By playing, in the Final Four, he's playing 9. I saw him when he came down here, played LSU, played 10. In the Collegiate All-Americans, he's playing 15. So he adds that instant that he can. When you can play 3 positions like that. It's hard to keep a guy out of the 23 like that. And then without a doubt, he can compete to be starting as well. So a great player. When he came down in July, he came down end of June, July for sevens and. Obviously I didn't 100% know, but, he had that kind of like, I really want to come down here. I really want to be here, and we'll see after the discoverable list comes out and everything, when our time to come around. But we're excited to have him down here. He'll be down here next week. So very excited to get him in the mix. And he's, like I said, he's a perfect prototype kind of player that we're talking about having on the rise and watching him develop,
Then you get Scott Gale,
Yep.
You get this Queensland Reds, Queensland country scrum half to come in. Like, how did that one work out?
And Scott's another one as well. First we have re-signed Holden as well. So Holden Younger will be back as well. And Scott adds that development as well between playing when he's in Japan and then also with Queensland Reds, he's a 9. But, growing up, as well through, coming up to the ranks through high school and everything like that, he's also been a 10 his whole life as well. So he, between Holden at 9 and him at 10, knock on wood, if anything, Holden, gets called in or ever went down, missed a game here and there. Scott's a great, obviously
Well, Holden.
Rugby level.
I'm a big. Anyone who knows me, I'm a big Holden Younger fan. So that's not a hey.
Absolutely.
Someone's coming in.
When he got signed on, obviously a lot of people know that he's a scrum half because that's what he plays for Queensland, and he is. But at the same time, he's got a hammer for a leg, and he can really play the corners and play the field position, and that's something that we really wanted to address last year as well. We were really did a lot of running forwards last year. Did a lot of 4 meters at a time and a lot of races around the corner and stuff like that. And we really wanted to address that. Not only for points, but also playing the field position as well and flipping the field on some of these, to play the territory. So Scott can do that, as well at the 10 position or at the 9, and he even has played 15.
So basically, you want to have 5 guys in the back line that can kick chase. Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, what's good about it too is that everybody besides probably Holden is probably a primary 9 at that's what he is, but almost every single one of our other backs has got some versatility that they can. Move around a little bit. So that's what's nice about having training camp and having a couple friendlies scheduled is that we can kind of play around with the lineup a little bit, and Nate's very good at, Nate's very good and very creative of coming up with plays like that can kind of put guys in the best position to succeed and utilize their, God-given ability at the most, So, and a lot of guys play off each other well. So with those different combinations, we'll find out during training camp and for the preseason and maybe even for the first regular season game or two. Sometimes those are an extension of the preseason. So we're excited to get them all out there and see where they're at. But like I said, adding that depth and adding a little bit of that firepower and adding some of that Super Rugby experience is outstanding to have.
And then Con Foley, Olympic captain from Australia.
Yeah. 43 tournaments, I believe it is, for Aussie sevens. Yeah. So, just a Unbelievably good dude. Actually saw, Will McGee the other day in Chicago. He said that he actually met him, knew him when he was with Wartaws over in Aussie for a while. And I think that they're in their camp, and said he's just unbelievably good dude. So obviously, knew that as well through Scott, and him and Scott and Con are really good buddies. And heard nothing but good things. Had multiple conversations with him. Same thing. He's excited to come to a new city in a new part of the United States and compete at the MLR level. And like I said, he'll be just finalizing everything with his visa right now that just got approved and everything. So he'll be here probably in about 2 weeks.
So I guess we've really covered recruitment. You said 22 guys coming back. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You retain a core group of guys going forward. So when do you guys assemble?
We're gonna. It's with the international window right there in the middle kind of Thanksgiving, it's a little tough, but most guys some guys are already starting to trickle in here in the next week or two, one by one. And then we should have all hands on deck besides the guys that are going for international, probably right that Monday or Tuesday, right after Thanksgiving. So that'll give us pretty much, almost exactly 60 days between then and the season opener in January. If we take a couple days off around Christmas, obviously some of the Sundays, you're looking at, 45 to 50 training days easily. And then also 4 friendlies scheduled in there. So some of those guys we're going to give a little bit, the international guys that are coming back from, Eric Howard, Hubert, and Kyle Bailey, the guys that are just coming from the Mitre 10 Cup like Kane Thompson, and then obviously Cam going as well and Tim Oppen from USA, that, we'll be kind of, obviously giving them a little bit of a break to get off their feet, but still just, working out in fitness, but we'll ease into it. But what's nice about year 2, you look at up and down our roster, like 35 guys on it, every single guy is either played at the professional level, played here last year, MLR level, or was a collegiate All-American. So everybody has got kind of some professional experience, more or less, especially when you look at like a collegiate All-American camp that Scott Lawrence runs and those guys run out there. Those are great. And then obviously also like, a team like Life University where Matt came from, that, is borderline a professional team, the way they run their practices and stuff. So I don't think it's going to take much time for everybody to start to gel and put it all together, real quick,
So, you keep mentioning collegiate All-American camp. What is like, based on what you guys saw out there, do you think at least the top end of collegiate rugby is developing, MLR ready players right now?
Yeah, I mean, my question is, a lot of times when I hear people ask, there's something that if not them in the United States, then who? If not them, then whom? You look at, we got 9 teams now in MLR. We got a couple more joining next year. You got some of our really good players that are playing overseas, and some of them are starting to come on back. So, if not the 22-year-old kid coming out of Life or Cal, or, it doesn't even have to be some high-end schools like that, but a Penn State, some of those guys that, like I said, this is not $135 million salary cap like, the NFL and stuff. So, going after a 22-year-old right out of college that is, not married, no kids, no home, no mortgage, no high-end job, and can pack up a suitcase and leave the next day. Those are a little bit easier and a little bit easier to work with, and put them in an apartment and get them down here and get them going, versus maybe, a middle-aged guy or something like, 30 years old that has a mortgage, wife, kids, and making $80,000 somewhere. So, like I said, if not them, then whom? And, if we can get a good connection with, how we've been working with USA Rugby in the Collegiate All-American Camp. And I think it says it best right there. Like I said, if you got 86 kids at the College All-American Camp and 80 of them are saying on a survey that, a questionnaire that they want to come and play or seeking an MLR contract right out of college, I think that speaks volumes, to where MLR is going. So you get those guys in an environment and get them in an academy, get them in your D1 teams and get them, firing their way up to the pipeline to get to MLR. I think that's, the best way to go, as far as the coaching wise and aspect, going right from college and right into a streamline of MLR coaching can really accelerate these guys.
You talked a little bit about, senior academy here. What about Taylor Howden is your junior academy director. What are the things that you guys are going to be doing? I know your U18s played a friendly against the Sabercats U18s in August, I think it was. So what are the next big things for that program.
Yeah, Taylor's been doing an unbelievable job, and when he's all said and done, I mean, he's, I've said it to him jokingly half the time, but I'm dead serious. He's going to be a coach in this league for sure. I mean, he's incredible. The way they can get guys going, the way they can get guys motivated. A guy like Nick Feeks, for example, having a great relationship with him, coming down and playing sevens, that stuff like that you get helps the recruitment. Taylor's been doing an integral part all summer long, going to youth programs, going to schools, going to charter schools, getting just something as basic as touch going to combines across, one in New Orleans, one in Mobile, and then one out in North Carolina. The ones around here, the women's program, he's doing one-on-ones with some of the Tulane women's teams and some of the women's the women's teams here are, doing side sessions with them and doing skill sessions with them. So he's just taken off, he's doing everything between that. And even some of our other guys like Michael Baska that stayed here all summer is helping out with the Jesuit backs. He's coaching the New Orleans Jesuit team. He's coaching the back line. So all of our players sticking around here are really doing a massive help with that. Taylor has lined up. So we have 4 friendlies that we're lining up. All those are going to have all 4 of those should have a curtain raiser of a high school game as well, or a U19, U20 high school game as well. So on December 8th, we're playing, our Gold Academy team is going against the USA South. That'll be kind of a mixture of maybe some of our college All-Americans mixed in with some of our local academy guys here, kind of trying to find some back-end guys to kind of get into the roster and get into our, they're also being on our D1 team. December 15th, same thing. We're playing the Stars select side. They're bringing a U19 team. And then the same thing on January 5th when we play the Midwest Thunderbirds. They're bringing a select side as well. And finally, in the Dallas Reds, there's going to be a select side that's coming down from Memphis as well. So a U19 select side. So all those guys, mixed in playing, all those guys in the academy will get a full game against all those, mixed in with a lot of our local guys here. So that's, it's huge. We didn't have that last year. And, in just, like I said, buzz of having last year and year 1 under our belt and then seeing where it's going here for year 2, it's really starting to grow big time around New Orleans.
Well, Ryan, thank you for your time tonight. Look forward to talking to you later on in the season. And, when camp starts, we'll get Nate on to talk about what he sees and what he expects to be able to do going into the season.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, man. Excited for the year, and we'll talk soon. Thanks a lot.